Well, hello everyone, my name is zwiggojr and welcome back to another video. Don't we all have a Pokemon game that we've never played before? And I'm not talking about one of those side series games, no, I'm talking about actual main series. Because I have actually never played Pokemon Black and White 2. Because at the time that the games came out, I was not really into Pokemon anymore and I never really bothered to play it in my spare time either, so this will be my first time playing through Pokemon Black and White 2, and we're immediately doing it in style with a hardcore Nuzlocke. Pokemon Black and White are one of my favorite games of all time. I really love that they made like an entire new Pokédex for the game, and I'm really excited to see what they did in the sequel to them. I will be playing with the regular hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which are on the screen right now. Before we actually jump into my first ever playthrough of this game, let me know in the comments down below if there are any Pokemon games that you have never played before. Let's try to smash 1,998 likes because that's my birth year, and my birthday was actually on the 12th of November last week, which is also kind of why I played Black and White 2, because I wanted something new for my birthday. With all of that shenanigans out of the way, don't forget to subscribe, and let's jump right into Pokemon Black 2. I really enjoyed the amazing starting cutscene of this game, so this did set my expectations pretty high. Of course, my name is going to be zwiggojr, and my rival's name is normally Hugh, so I just named him Huge Man. We then go over even more cutscenes, and I'm not going to lie, the 3D animation in this game is probably the best I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. Our mother gets a call from a professor. We have no idea who that is, of course, because we've never met her. But she comes into the house and explains to us that we get to pick our starter Pokemon. So after meeting up with our rival and taking him with us, we eventually meet up with Bianca from Black and White 1. Super cool to see returning characters. She has grown up a bit though, she isn't the 10-year-old from before, but she is going to be the one to give us our starter Pokemon. And I decided to go with the cutest one of the three, Oshawott. I mean, who doesn't like an otter on their team? We then get to fight our rival for the first time, and he's of course going to have the starter that's strong against me. It doesn't really matter because the man does not have any grass type moves yet, and I can just tackle him into oblivion. After destroying his hopes and dreams, we learn how to catch a Pokemon from Bianca, and our first encounter here is going to be a Purloin. I don't like Purloin, to be completely honest with you, and it's really bad early game, so I don't think we'll use this thing much. Then just like in Black and White 1, Alder decides to jump off a rock and breaks his leg. That's the second time you've done that, sir. I don't think it's a very good idea to do it a third time, because you actually might die. Anyway, after he gives us a quick little inspection, we then capture our next Pokemon, Sewaddle. A nice grass bug type which could come in handy against... I don't know, because I have no idea what the gym leaders are in this game. I'm going in completely blind. The only thing I looked up was the level caps. And we then also get another encounter on the farm, and that's a Psyduck, which is not going to be useful because we already have a water type. I then randomly ran into my rival again, and I did not grind up my Pokemon because I have no idea when these battles come. But Polly, together with Sniffles, were able to take down Snivy with a couple of tackles. We then found out that the family dog ran away somewhere and we have to go find it. Apparently the dog got stolen by pirates. Sounds pretty weird to me because pirates normally don't have dogs, they have parrots. As it turns out though, they are not pirates, they are Team Plasma. But we're not going to have to fight them yet because, I mean, we literally just started our journey. Would be pretty weird if we have to deal with the Pokemon Mafia already, right? After saving the dog, we then meet up with our first gym leader battle, and it's a pretty familiar face. It's Sharon, once again from Black and White 1. He is the first gym leader and also runs normal types, and I forgot to heal up my Pokemon before this battle, so I went in with kind of a hurt team. But that didn't really matter because Polly took out his first Pokemon with some bug bites, and the second Pokemon, Lillipup, got taken down by bug bites from my Sewaddle and some water gun from my Sniffles. Easy first gym batch, we didn't even need to be at full health. We also get the TM for workup, which would be very useful in a hardcore Nuzlocke, but yeah, I didn't use it. I did not use it. Do you remember the calls, the FaceTime calls from Black and White? Well, they have that in this game too, but in HD. Best feature in the game by far. We then reach the next town and we meet up with a punk rock looking girl. No idea who this is, but I guess we'll find out later. But first, we have to go to the dirty part of the town where we find ourselves a Patrat. The worst encounter we could have gotten. Great. We still do capture it though, because I still don't want to lose this Nuzlocke. We then find ourselves standing eye to eye with the second gym leader, the punk rock girl. Her name is Roxy, and she's going to specialize in the poison typing, which is no problem for us because our Psyduck has confusion, which can take out coughing with just a couple of them. And Whirlipede actually just goes down by 2 of them because the first one was a critical hit. This just means that we get our second gym badge even easier than our first one. And now it's time for the moment that I've personally been waiting for, PokeStar Studios. I've never done this in my life, and to be honest, it's a pretty cool little feature. You basically just get to star in your own movies. Or should I say Bryson's movies, because he's the movie star. He's like the Barack Obama of Pokemon. When the movie's done, we get to fight Team Plasma for the first time ever, and they have an exciting new theme song, which I love. The regular Team Plasma was always my favorite evil team song, and I think this one is actually better. But no time to talk about music, let's save the world from these bastards. After tracking them down and losing them in an open field, we then get to do a boat ride in 3D. And man, do I wish that they worked with 3D more in Pokemon Platinum, because that game could have looked so much better. After arriving in the next city, we find a strange ship in the harbor. It kinda looks like a pirate ship to me, so I think there can only be one owner. It's got to be Alder. He's probably the leader of Team Plasma too, that's why he jumps off rocks all the time. We then have a very dirty job. We have to go and clean out the sewers because it's full of Team Plasma. After getting a Zubat here, we then move on a little bit further and find out that there is an ancient ruins in here. And that's why Team Plasma is in the sewer, not because they live here. After fighting them off, Birch, the third gym leader, comes running by, and he once again is too late because we've already cleaned up his mess. But we also meet up with one of the best characters in this entire game, Colress. But we'll learn a bit more about him later on. And if you go on top of the sewers, you can actually get another encounter, and here I caught myself a Pidove, which is something that I'll probably just use for flying. In the ruins, I also caught a Roggenrola, my Oshawott evolved into a Duat, and I went to the desert to grab myself a Darumaka, which is actually going to be very useful against the next gym leader because he has bug-type Pokemon. Speaking about the next gym leader, he has 100% got the best gym design in this game. It might actually be my favorite gym design in the entirety of Pokemon. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite gym is. But before we take on Birch, we have some evolutions to go through. Polly evolved into a Swadloon and then into a Livani. Purloin evolved into Lightpart, Patrat into Watchog, and Zubat into Golbat. And we then jumped into the battle, and I one-punched manned the Swadloon with Fire Punch, as he then brought in Dwebble. So I decided to swap in Migraine and just water pulsed it a couple of times before it died. Livani, his ace Pokemon, also goes down by a Fire Punch from Darumaka. 3 gym badges acquired, time to meet up with Colress so that he can move the crystals out of the way. I do kind of want to be a crystal though, just laying in the middle of the road, blocking people's paths, not having to worry about life. That's the dream. We're going a bit off track though, let's just take on Colress. This was probably the easiest fight yet, so I'm just going to skip over this. It's really easy. I just fire punched him a couple of times and that was that. Rock'n'Rolla then evolved into Boldore. In the desert ruins, I also caught a Sandile, which is going to be amazing against the next gym leader. And we also met up with our counterpart in order to get into the subway, which was pretty cool, but nothing special except these guys, because they have the best outfits in this entire game. Before we take on the next gym, it's time for another encounter, so I grab a Gothita and also a Cottony. After doing some grinding, my Sandile also evolved into a Krokorok, and just like that, we can take on Elisa. She starts off with an Emolga, so I led off with Boulder because I tried to hit it with a Rock Tomb, but she Volt Switched out into Fluffy. I then just went into Donatello the Krokorok, who digged up the Fluffy, and then also digged the Zebstrika to take both of them down in one hit. And since our Moxie ability activated twice, we can now also one-shot the final Pokemon Emolga with a Crunch. After walking over the catwalk like we're a celebrity, we eventually reach Driftvale City, where we meet up with Team Plasma, but it's not the regular Team Plasma, it's the new one and the old one. As it turns out, the old one is now actually good, and they just want to fight for the freedom of Pokemon, while the bad one is actually bad. After interrupting their conversation, we then get to meet up with one of the 7 sages, and he's now also a good guy. We still just show him who's boss because, I mean, we have to punish him for his past sins. And after winning against him in a Pokemon battle, we then team up with them to try and take down the rest of the evil Team Plasma. And he helps me out by giving me a Zorua, a very nice dark type which we will definitely use later on. But first we evolve him into a Zoroark. And we also get ourselves a nice Gothorita. And now it's time to take on the sheriff of this town, Clay. Luckily, we can easily one-shot his first Pokemon, Krokorok, with a Water Pulse from Duat. His second Pokemon, Sandslash, survives a Water Pulse and lowers my speed with a Bulldoze, but we then proceed to take him down with a Water Pulse and an Aqua Jet. His final Pokemon is going to be an Excadrill, and I knew that this thing couldn't one-shot me with anything that he would throw at me, so I just went for another Water Pulse and managed to one-shot, which got ourselves our third Gym Bane. After the gym battle, I evolved Cottony into Whimsicott. Not gonna lie, I kinda forgot that this Pokemon existed, but he might be useful for us. We then go through the entirety of the Pokemon World Tournament, which is something I also never played before, and it always looked cool to me. But since our Pokemon don't really gain any experience, and I managed to complete all of these battles without any one of my Pokemon feigning, we are just going to have to skip over this, even though it's a really cool concept. A little bit further down the road, my Darumaka evolved into a Darmanitan, and we then finally got aboard of the Team Plasma ship. As it turns out, it's definitely not Alder that owns this ship, it's this purple guy. After unveiling their entire plan, they throw us off the ship with a couple of ninjas, and after regrouping with the gang, we then have to go further on our journey, and we find a nice Cobalion here. Definitely my favorite member of the Swords of Justice. I then went into the cave where Cobalion used to live, and over here I actually found one of the best encounters ever, an Axew. I first ran into a Boldor, but that's Dupe's Claws, so an Axew, I will definitely take that. We then go to the electric looking cave with all the blue crystals, and over here I got a Joltik, a nice little electric type, which will be very, very good against the next gym leader. And as we get out of the cave, my Duat evolves into a Samurott. We then finally meet up with the person that gave us our starter Pokemon, Professor Juniper, and she gives us another gift, a Master Ball. Hopefully I won't use this on a Pidgey or a Tentacool. Let's just wait and see what I use it on. We get even more evolutions because we evolve our Axew into a Fracture and our Joltik into a Galvantula. And we then get to battle the next gym leader, Skyla. She also has a very, very cool gym design. I do have to say the gyms in this game seem to be very, very worked out because they've been totally changed around from the first Pokemon Black and White games. Not that it makes the gym battles any harder though, because my Galvantula can easily one-shot the Zubat with Electro Ball. Swanna goes down the same way, and the final Pokemon, Skarmory, goes down by an Electro Ball and an Electro Whip because it had the sturdy ability, so it survived my first attack. That is 6 gym badges acquired already, so we only have 2 more to go, and as it turns out, the Dragon-type gym leader is not the last one in this game, it's the 7th one. We then get a message from Professor Juniper that we have to go to the, I think it's the ghost tower of this game, and over here we capture ourselves a nice little Litwick. We then have even more 3D cutscenes with the plane that we're going to be flying right now, and we're going to Lentimas Town, which is a new town in this game, which is always very refreshing to see. Juniper then says that we have to go through Reversal Mountain if we want to reach the Dragon-type gym leader, Drayden, so that's exactly what we are going to be doing. On my way there, I found a haunted house with moving furniture and stuff, and I honestly have no idea what it's doing here. But we also evolve our Krokorok into a Crocodile, because we're not going to be staying in this place for long. After going through the mountain together with Bianca, we find out that it's apparently shaped by the lava Pokemon Heatran, who of course now lives in Sinnoh. After hitting the beach, we try to go to the next town, but we get stopped by Huge Man. Huge Man leads with an Unpheasant, which I can one-shot with Aranea's Electro Ball. Simisear is then pretty strong against my Spider here, so we're going to be swapping out into our starter in order to one-shot with a Surf. He then goes into his Serperior, so I go back into Araneo and just single beam it a couple of times in order to win another rival fight. And just a little bit further up the road, we found Cobalion again. Not just running into him, this time we're going to be capturing him. and I'm just going to be using my Master Ball so I don't really risk losing any of my Pokemon. He will also be the only legendary that I'll be using in this entire playthrough. I am going to be capturing more legendaries, but this is the only one that I'll be using because otherwise the game will be a little bit too easy. It's also time for Dutch with Zwiggo. Today we're going to be learning that hert means deer. That's the word of the day's video. I'll see you next week with the next Dutch word of the week. After this legendary encounter, we get to fight Team Plasma again. This time we're fighting their commander together with Huge Man in a double battle. This definitely wasn't too hard though. I just fire punched, and then fire punched, and that was the entire battle. Yeah, Darmanitan is kind of broken. But I wanted to capture another legendary, and to do so I needed a new fire type. So I evolved my Lampet into a Chandelure so that I could capture Virizion, because that means that it could only hit me with Giga Drain, so my Pokemon is basically never going to faint, and I can just very easily capture Virizion in a Dusk Ball. Before we take on the last gym leader, Drayden, we also evolve our Fracture into a Haxorus, and this dragon animation just before you take on Drayden is probably the coolest thing I have seen in this game. I can't wait until they remake Pokemon Black and White 2. As we all know, Drayden is going to be specializing in the dragon typing. I have a dragon type of my own, my Haxorus, so I'm just going to be using him. I'll Dragon Claw his first Pokemon, Dredagon, to take it down. Flygon actually manages to outspeed me, which I didn't think that it could do, but it did so and hit an Earth Power, which I took pretty well, and then hit back with Dragon Claw to kill. And his last Pokemon is a Haxorus of his own, but mine is just a little bit faster, so we can Dragon Claw it and win our 7th gym badge. Another gym badge, another amazing 3D cutscene is about to occur. We see that the ship is now flying. I don't think it's supposed to do that, and I also don't think it's supposed to cover the entire city in ice. But they do it anyway. After making everything very brr and cold, they come down of their airship and demand the DNA splicers, which are used to fuse Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem. After taking out all of their troops in the city, we finally meet up with their commander in front of the gym. Luckily for us though, he still has 2 Cryogonals and a Weavile, so my Darmanitan just bulldozes through his entire team with Fire Punch. After defeating him, Drayden hands me the DNA splicers to protect them, but they get stolen by one of the Shadow Ninja guys. So sadly enough, we're going to have to retrieve it, but first we have to take on the 8th gym leader, who doesn't really seem to care that Team Plasma is planning on taking over the world. So I guess we're going to have to knock some sense into this swimmer guy. You may have already guessed it, but this guy runs a water type team. He's going to be leading with a Caracosta, which is 4 times weak to grass, so I'll be leading with Whimsicott and just Giga Drain it a couple of times. Because of its sturdy, it survives a couple, but eventually we do take it out. Waylord is up next. Even though he's the Lord of the Whales, he still can't take down a single little puffball. He manages to hit us with a bounce, but it doesn't do that much damage, and we can easily take him down with a couple of Giga Drains. His last Pokemon is also a thick boy, a Jellicent. I once again Giga Drained it a couple of times, but eventually I'm too low on the HP part, so we're going to have to switch into Araneo and then finish off this big jellyfish with Electro Ball, which gives us our 8th and final gym badge, so we can go on over to the Pokemon League. Psych, we first have to do a lot more Team Plasma stuff. And while I was on my way to save the world, I actually ran into Terrakion, which I captured by using Charm a lot with my Whimsicott and then just whittling it down and eventually capturing it with a Dusk Ball again. As we find their ship, we see that Marlon is already aboard, and he tells us that Team Plasma is apparently not doing anything bad against him, so he's not even going to help us out. Amazing gym leader. And then after boarding the ship and doing everything ourselves, we eventually reach the room where Kyurem is being held captive, and we're going to have to free him. How do we do that, you ask? Well, by watching another 3D cutscene and seeing the ship fly away and we get thrown off it. So we have to find the ship again, but first we run into a dispute between the regular Team Plasma and the new Team Plasma. So the old Team Plasma will help us defeat the new Team Plasma so that we can pass through and find the ship again. After doing so, we eventually find ourselves in the main room of the ship, where we see that Chorus is actually standing here. Even though he helped us a couple of times before, he is apparently a bad guy. But not really, because he doesn't really want to do bad things, he just wants to get the most potential out of Pokemon, even though that means doing bad things. That's why he's with Team Plasma, because they can help him with his research. I do get that, doing everything for your ideals, but this is a little bit too much, so we're going to have to put him in his place. He now leads with a Magneton, so I'll be leading with my legendary Pokemon Cobalion. I hit a Sacred Sword, it doesn't quite kill at all actually, and we get paralyzed and then hit with a Volt Switch as he goes into Magnezone. Magnezone also gets hit with 2 Sacred Swords but survives because of its sturdy and then goes boom. Luckily, we do resist the boom, so we survive ourselves, and he brings in Klinklang. So I decide to bring in something that's very good against Klinklang, our Darmanitan. He's going to Fire Punch it once and easily finish it off. His Metang also gets one-shot by Fire Punch. He then has something that isn't weak to fire, a Behemoth. That doesn't really matter though, he still gets one-punched, and the final Pokemon, Magneton, also just gets destroyed by Fire Punch, and that's Colress defeated. After winning the battle, we actually get through to him, so he realizes that he's kind of wrong, but he wants us to stop Team Plasma first before he stops all of his research. So he tells us to step up onto the green panel, so that's what we do, and who do we find here? It's our old grandpa Getsis. Just like last time, this guy only wants world domination, so he's behind all of the Team Plasma schemes as it turns out. And his plan is apparently to freeze Unova, which, why would you do that? That will just make everybody cold. That's no fun. Not even for you. I don't get why evil team leaders' plans are always so bad. But hey, we're still going to have to stop this stupid plan. So as he runs off, we're going to have to find him again, and this time we find him down in an icy cave. He makes a reference to Black and White 1 and then tries to kill me with ice crystals. Luckily, he gets stopped by En's Kyurem, and this scene was super cool to watch. The old Team Plasma King comes back to save the world and destroy the new Team Plasma, but Getsis has a plan. He fuses Zekrom with Kyurem with the DNA splicers. So now he has control of the Kyurem Black form. Luckily for us, we have a legendary that's actually super effective against his Zekrom Kyurem form, so we're just going to Iron Head it twice with Hert, and that's that. I guess it's true what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But the battle isn't over yet. We also have to defeat Getsis because he's still threatening to destroy the world even though we just defeated Kyurem. And to be honest, this was also a really easy battle. I just set up 3 Swords Dances with Cobalion on Cofagrigas because this thing can't touch me, and I then proceeded to one-shot it with Iron Head. I also one-shotted Seismitoad with Sacred Sword, Drapion with Iron Head, Electros with a Sacred Sword too, Toxicroak with an Iron Head, and the final Pokemon, Hydreigon, also goes down to Iron Head. And that's Getsis defeated and Team Plasma's entire plan down the drain. And flies off on his Zekrom, and I don't know what Getsis does, he just vanishes and leaves his staff. So as our rival comes along, we finally get to leave the cave and go to Victory Road so that we can challenge the Pokemon League. And this has got to be the coolest Victory Road intro thing I've ever seen. I love the blue and orange colors because, I mean, Swampert is blue and orange too. But I can definitely appreciate all of the amazing art styles that are used in this game. But with all of that simping for this game out of the way, it's time to take on Huge Man one last time before we challenge the Pokemon League. Crocodile manages to take down Unpheasant with Rock Slide, but I did get swaggered and that put me in a confusion state. But I still decided to stay in because I was at +3 attack so I could just one-shot his entire team. But I got very unlucky and I hit myself with my confusion and Bouffalon killed Crocodile with Head Smash. I then just went into Haxorus, who could take down this Bouffalon with 2 more Dragon Claws. As he then went to Serperior, I went into Whimsicott, who could just take it down with 2 Hurricanes, and because it's grass versus grass, the Serperior can barely touch me. His last Pokemon was the ugliest monkey on earth, Simisear, so my Samurott takes it down with Surf. The only thing left to do before we take on the Elite Four and Champion is craft a team that can actually win. So I decided to take back an old friend Gotharita and add her to the team so that we can easily take down the Fighting type Elite Four member. And since our Dark type just died, we needed a new one, so I brought back zwiggojr. And that's the only changes I'm going to be making to the team. And the first Elite Four member I'm going to be taking on is Chantal with her Ghost types, and I'm going to be leading off with my zwiggojr, set up a couple of nasty plots, and then proceed to one-shot Caitlyn with Dark Pulse, a Golurk with Dark Pulse as well. Chandelure goes down the same way. Drifblim absolutely stands no chance. Another Dark Pulse, another win for me. And since this Elite Four has two members that are weak to Dark types, we're going to be taking on the Psychic type leader next. Her name is Caitlyn, and she's probably going to go down the same way as Chantal, so let's see. Okay, so I set up a nasty plot, then Dark Pulse, then Dark Pulse again, and finally Dark Pulse. There is one thing though. My zwiggojr leveled up to level 60, and the highest Pokemon here is the champion's level 59 Haxorus. So we're not going to be able to use zwiggojr from now on. Now the next guy we have to take on is Marshall, and I'm not going to be starting off with Gothitelle. I'm going to be starting with Samurott because Gothitelle is going to have to take down some more Pokemon. But our Samurott here can actually finish off the throw, his first Pokemon, with a couple of Surfs. He then has a Mienshao who outspeeds me because I got a speed lowering and hits me with a high jump kick, leaving me with only 22 HP, but I somehow still managed to one-shot with Surf. Probably because my Torrent ability activated. For Conkeldurr, I finally swapped out Samurott for Dino the Gothitelle, who could one-shot it with Psychic and also take a Stone Edge with 83 HP remaining. His last Pokemon was a Sock, who I hit with one more Psychic, but it had Sturdy and a Payback left me with only 13 HP, so I knew I had to swap out here. So I just went into Haxorus while he went for a full restore, and I then killed the Sock with 2 more Dragon Claws, and that's the third Elite Four member defeated. Time to move on to the final one, the Dark type one, Grimsley. He leads with a Liepard, so I'm going to be leading with my Fighting type here, Cobalion, and set up some Sword stances because this thing can absolutely not touch me. After taking my attack stat over 9000, I proceed to one-shot it with Sacred Sword. I then also one-shot Crocodile, Scrafty, and finally Bisharp, all with Sacred Swords. Which means that we have finally defeated all of the Elite Four members, so we can move on over to the champion, which in this game is not Alder, it is Iris. She led off with a High Dragon, so I'm going to be leading off with my Cobalion here and set up a Swords Dance and then proceed to kill it with a Sacred Sword. The next Pokemon will be a Druddigon, and I start off by going for an Iron Head. It doesn't quite kill, but I managed to flinch it so my Cobalion can live another turn, and we then take it out with another Iron Head. She then has an Aggron, which I can also one-shot with Sacred Sword, but I was not sure if this thing had Sturdy or not. Luckily, it didn't, so we are still living. She then has a Haxorus of her own, and I go for my Iron Head, but it doesn't quite kill, we don't flinch, and we get taken out with an Earthquake. That's our second death of the run. But it's totally fine because we have a Haxorus of our own, which we can bring in, then hit a Dragon Claw while she uses a full restore, but she has a Focus Sash. So she survives. Next turn, she goes for a Dual Chop but misses, so my Haxorus survives and takes it down with another Dragon Claw. She then brings in her Lapras, which I don't really have an answer to because my Fighting type died, so I decided to go into Gothitelle and hit a Psyshock, but I then get put to sleep with a Sing, and as I was expecting an Ice type move, I brought in Darmanitan, I tanked the Ice Beam and then hit back with a Superpower to kill. Her last Pokemon was an Archeops. I knew I had to sack someone here, and sadly enough, I don't really have a bond with Gothitelle, so I'm going to bring her in and sacrifice her. So then I can bring in Samurott, take an Acrobatics, and hit back with a Surf to win the champion battle of Pokemon Black and White 2. Since I finally beat this game, I can now also play it on challenge mode, so if you guys would like to see some videos on the challenge mode of this game, let me know in the comments down below. And it was actually an amazing experience playing through a game that I had never played before, but that still felt pretty similar because of Black and White 1. This game might actually be in my top 5 favorite Pokemon games. And I also don't think that I did really badly on the Nuzlocke part because I only had 3 deaths, so I mean, that's pretty decent. But the challenge mode is probably a lot harder. And in terms of a rating, I would probably give this game an 8.5 out of 10. Before we end off the video, I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel. If you want to do so yourself, the links are in the description. It is always appreciated, but not needed. And as always, people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm zwiggojr, and I'll see you guys next time.